minutes. It took me 30 because I started at 8:45. Hello, everybody. That's my song for today. Hold on. Let me just make sure that I'm live because seriously, this morning has been hysterical. Oh my God, it's been hysterical. I know that I'm live now. Like, I know I'm live now so deeply in my soul. Oh my God, please let me be live. Wouldn't it be funny if I wasn't live right now? Oh my God, seriously? Come on. I'm multi-stream living. Oh, I know why I'm not live yet. Hold on. Ha, totally forgot. That's super funny. No, you have to press the button. You have to press the button. There you go. Hey, look at me learning things. Okay, we did it. Oh my God. So, I did it. We got the live stream up and I'm only 15 minutes late. You actually missed my song. I had a really good song for my LinkedIn Live. What was my song? Oh, hold on. Let me just make sure that I'm live before I sing it again because I don't want to have to. Oh, look at me. I'm live. Okay, let me click here to join live. Perfect. Okay, now that I know that I'm live, and I just want to make sure that I can hear myself. Give me a sec. Hello? Hello? Anyone at home? There's no one here. Perfect. Oh, look at me. All right. 15 minutes, people. Oh, no, wait, hold on. It took me 30 minutes because I started at 8:45. But LinkedIn is impossible. And it spent forever trying to tell me that I was live when I wasn't. And so I had to troubleshoot. And now I'm live. Hi, everyone. It's Monday morning, and we are going to start the week with intent. I just have to tell you that I pressed pause on the live on my screen, and it's like, it's so funny. I'm going to mute it, though. I'm going to mute it because it's super funny, because, like, my face is like, ah! It's quite funny. So, good morning, everyone. I'm going to kind of just give you a brief recap of my apologies for 15 minutes late. Because as we all know, with our lives as research administrators, weird stuff happens. Oh, I forgot my earrings. And so as I started getting ready about, like I was ready, and then I sit down at my computer at 8:45, and I'm like, okay, let's do this thing. And I'm getting ready to go live, and something isn't working. But anyway, so when this actually is, now when we're done, you can just fast forward through all that. Nobody's going to be like, oh my God. Okay, so let's talk about why I wanted to do this. Let me just also make sure. Oh, hi, everyone. Listen, if you're here, say hi in the comments so I can say hi to you too. If you can't, that's fine too. I get it. Let me tell you a little bit about what intent is and sort of why I wanted to resurrect it. About 7 years ago, I started doing live intent every Monday morning for a business ownership group that I was a part of and a marketing community, because I realized that like every Monday morning we were like, oh my God, and like we just didn't really enjoy. We were just so tired all the time. There was so much to deal with, so much to do, that honestly we weren't really enjoying the week. And I thought to myself, it sucks. For me, like, forget about everybody else. I hated starting my week off feeling like, right? I wanted to start it off positively. And I was very petulant about that for a little bit because I was like, and honestly, it wasn't happening. So the reason why I started Intent was because I needed to be held accountable to being positive in the mornings. So I started Intent probably, oh my God, it would be 7 or 8 years ago. And it was big. Oh my God, it was huge. And it was super fun. We ended up doing it a couple times a week after a while and then scaling back down again. But we did it for about 4 or 5 years. And then I was moving out of that field. And so I kind of just continued doing it. But it was an incredible event every Monday because of how we typically start our Monday mornings. Like most of us start our Monday mornings, right? Even today I started my Monday morning with, and I'm like, no, we're doing Intent. It's going to be great. So what do we do on Intent? So typically I'll share something that has happened to me recently that was like a great learning lesson, sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes like, oh my God, that resonates. But typically we'll talk about things that are relevant to us in our industry. So in today's case, I just got back from Hawaii. We had an incredible conference. FRA, PRA was just amazing. I have some things I want to share. I have some resources I want to share with you. I'll make a post following up on this a little later with a list of resources from Intent because I meant to get it in today's, but because I got caught up on the, oh my God, I can't go live situation, it didn't end up in the actual video. So, okay, so let's start with, I want to just double check here to see, okay, hold on. Where's my thingy? There's my mouse. Let me just make sure, because I'm, you know how it is. When it doesn't work the first time, you suddenly start to get nervous and you're like, oh, is anything working? Okay, so it's still working. Everything's good. So let's talk about what the story, what's been happening. So I just got back from FRA in Hawaii, and I'll tell you, it was the most amazing event. Like, I've been a member of NCURA for about 25 years now, so I'm trying to remember. I cannot remember exactly when I started. I mean, it's probably my resume, but it's long enough now that it's more than half my life, right? So, and I've been going to NCURA events, the whole time, and they've been great the whole time. But obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have stayed a member for this long. Love NCURA. But there's something happened this particular one that, like, took NCURA from awesome to, like, woo! Like, we're going to the stratosphere awesome. So I just want to thank Celia Kaspar, Stacy Reisman, Vincent Borleska, and Nancy Rouleau for an incredible display of leadership, and just how, and we'll talk more about it a little bit later, in addition to some of the key interesting pieces of information that you want to hear. But I just want to highlight those 4 people specifically because they ran the conference. They had their teams. The NCURA staff, oh my God, was absolutely incredible, keeping everything going. And what we've all learned over the last few years, I think, as we've tried to make changes in our own organizations, is that you can want change, you can want various things to happen as much as you want, any individual person. But in the end, things don't happen until leadership gets behind it and really puts their muscle, puts their belief, puts their effort. We know that is something that is needed, right? So I really want to do a shout out to Chris Monahan. I went in and hugged her. She's amazing. I've known her for years. Brilliant. She has been brilliant from the moment I met her, and she's brilliant now. And so, dude, I just want to say you are amazing. You get it. You get what it is that we're all of us. Like, I feel like you really took the voice of the research administrators and it kind of coalesced. Your leadership is inspiring. So thank you so much. I'm not typically the person who gets rallied to calls of leaders or that kind of thing. I'm typically, my own person, just hiding in a little, thing and doing my own thing. And then I'm like, oh, look, there's a person, right? But now over the last couple of years, as I have been growing as a leader myself, one of the challenges that I've had is learning how to be a leader. That's a skill set that I'm kind of trying to develop within myself. And and I see people that I respect and admire, and I see actions and how they operationalize these really big, complicated ideas. And so I just want to highlight how meaningful it was to watch all of these ideas that we've been talking about for several years, DEI and salaries and administrative burden and all the things that we're going to talk about later, and how it all coalesced here. So it was really incredible. If you have an opportunity to go to any one of your regional conferences, I strongly recommend that you attend. If you are not yet registered for, Region 1. I'm like, which one? Region 1 is going to be, we'll talk a little bit about later, May 6th to 8th. I am the keynote speaker. We'll come back to that again also. So many things to come back to. But register for that. But definitely attend whatever NCURA events you can. And I think the conversation we have today will sort of, illustrate why. So let's talk about some of the big, I wish I had a news thing. And now, the news. So changes in the air, everybody. Changes in the air. All over NCURA. Future is so bright right now. I can't even tell you. I gotta wear shades. That's how bright future is right now. You know what? This is actually pretty cool. I can dig this. I feel I can actually even see like my notes, though it's these don't. I'm gonna clean this off first. So we went to a couple sessions. One of the biggest ones, like there were a lot. Syra and I are gonna do our own videos later where we'll share those also about just individual sessions that had a huge impact on us. But a high level overview of the ones that I think are gonna have the biggest impact on us as research administrators and on on us as research administrators and on our workload. I'm wondering how long I'm going to be able to do this before either I'll feel ridiculous or someone's going to tell me that I look ridiculous, or that they're like, I need you to take those off. But Gil Tran of Attain, he did a really, really great presentation. Oh, it had such a great name. It was, see, it's happened. I can't actually read that. A uniform guidance proposed revision. So he really talked about all of the changes that are being proposed. And so I have them written down here, and I want to make sure that I highlight some of the key elements, okay? So basically, they published a proposal for a fundamental rewrite of the uniform guidance, okay? So the White House announced that the proposal will materially decrease the burden on recipients of federal financial assistance. Advance equity job growth across the country. It's supposed to meaningfully, deep down inside, improve the administration of federal financial assistance. Okay, so he included a bunch of links in there also, but he specifically talks about the reasons for why they are doing this. So the reasons why they were doing this is because they wanted to incorporate statutory requirements and administration priorities. But they also wanted to reduce agency and recipient burden, because what's happening is you have the OMB circular, and then you have the agencies that they have to interpret it, and then they come up with their own guidelines, and then they send it out to us, and then on our end we have to do our own guidelines. And I think one of the things that's happened is that, like, if you think about it, from say 20 something years ago, you know, we had a process that we built on a process that we built on a process and then built on a process, and now we've just got these giant processes that for like to buy a pencil, you know, it's a bit extra, right? So they're working on kind of reducing some of those things, and they want to clarify some of the sections that recipients or agencies have interpreted in different ways, which has obviously created a lot of, I mean, how many times do you get on a call with someone being like, okay, so the guidance says that I can only charge salary for the period of something, but it doesn't tell me whether the period is the truncated period or the 12 months period, right? And it's like you spend, I don't know, and so then you call the sponsor, and the sponsor's like, I don't know, just figure it out. And what? Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So this will help us with that a little bit. So this is really exciting. The other part that I found was, this is going to sound, I don't know if this is like silly or if it's exciting, but, or silly that we even have to talk about this, but that they are going to be rewriting applicable sections, okay, in plain language to improve flow and address inconsistent use of terms. Thank God, because that was a big one. Because, you know, I mean, one of the bigger problems that we do have is that, I mean, it's not really written in, forget about plain English. I'm not entirely sure it's written in English at all, right? So the fact that they're going through and trying to simplify it tells us that we are not the only ones that have noticed that we don't need 400 pages of paperwork to buy a pencil. And so other agencies are taking notice. So this was really exciting. He did like a whole presentation on this. Specifically, you know, the thing to keep in mind, though, is that even as they make these changes, right? Hold on, I want to make sure I have that thing. Also, my allergies are really intense, so I'm probably going to sneeze. So I apologize if I sneeze into somebody's ear. So the changes, so where we go? Okay, so these changes, as we're talking about, they're designed to like reduce the administrative burden, but the problem that we're going to run into, and this is sort of just the percolation time it takes to go through any of these individual activities. The red line is currently up. I'll post the link later so you can go take a look at it. And then I'm going to email Gil. He's going to be on, Syra and I are going to be doing a podcast called RAs in Your Living Room. And we want to get him on and have the same kind of conversation with him about this so that everybody else can hear it too, in case you weren't at NCURA. But the key to keep in mind is that, you know, if you're at NCURA, you have the advance notice. You can go look at it now. But we're going to do all this work. And then even, let's say 24 hours from when we send it to them, right? So let's say, what did they say the date is where it's done? Like there's an actual date where you have to have it, I think something 23rd, like June 23rd. So let's say it's June 23rd, okay? So June 23rd is the day we get all of the changes to them. And let's say June 24th, it's like, this is enacted. Even with that, the agencies are going to take like a year or so for them to be like, okay, we got to make these changes as well, and so on and so forth. So one of the things I think for me was important about NCURA is, and this is so, it's fun, is that we all recognize the need for change. I think from top to bottom, I think we're all part of the engine of change, and we're all doing our thing. But I think for me, the thing that I realized was that even like we're doing our stuff, but for us to really like, we'll see incremental changes and incremental improvement and so on and so forth. But for us to have like a complete clean wipes to where we look back and say, wow, we are a completely different industry than we were before based off of all these changes that we made. You know, I think we're looking at a little bit longer, but the relief is coming, right? So at least the relief is coming, and we know it's coming. So that for me is a giant reassurance, right? Because this is going to have a trickle down effect. Because part of the purpose of this is that, and this came up a bunch of times at NCURA, is that we're spending so much time doing administrative work that are key compliance activities that we're struggling with, right? And so I love that the agencies are seeing this. I love that the OMB circular is going to demonstrate this, and so on. Well, let's talk about briefly some of the key items that they're addressing, because like I talked about the overview, but these are just some things for you to keep in mind. And if you're like me, one of these is going to give you an absolute heart attack. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, heart attack. Okay. So I was in a session with David No and Jeremy. Oh, I can't remember his last name, but they were amazing. And they were talking about how the OMB the conversation is talking about moving from effort certification to payroll certification, right? And then reworking the language around voluntary cost sharing. And so David says this this is literally the first session I went to at FRA, right? Like, so the first words that I heard at FRA were something moving from effort certification to payroll certification. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And my brain broke inside. I was like, I don't even understand what you're saying. But like, but that was because it was the first time I'd heard of it. But as we talked about it more, and as we started and I knew it was a good idea. So like, even though my brain was broken, I was like, oh my God, this is so smart. So what was really exciting is that we were able to have a really great conversation about effort. And it was in the context of fixed amount versus cost reimbursable contracts, and like the giant amount of flexibility that you can get out of a fixed amount contract. And then it was actually a really great session. So I wanted to recommend that if you have the opportunity to reach out to David and connect with him on that conversation, it'll make a really big difference in terms of how you manage subawards. We'll come back to that later. So they want to move from effort certification to payroll certification, and then they're going to rework the voluntary cost sharing conversation, because right now I think this is one of the areas where people interpret it differently, and like it's hard to apply and also report. And so they have some more on that one. They're going to be making changes to equipment, supplies, subaward thresholds for IDC. So there's a whole lot of IDC reworking that's happening. My understanding is that the way it's going to work is that once they publish these, and these are like effective, when you do your next federal rate negotiation, that's when all these things will come into play. But obviously they're still figuring out how that's going to work, what they're doing. So that's something to just keep in mind about, is that over the next, I would say, year or so, there's going to be changes to the uniform guidance related to equipment, supplies, subaward thresholds. I think equipment's going to $10,000, and then subawards go up to $50,000. So it's something to sort of keep in mind as you're planning, and then figuring out how you want to address that within your own organization. And of course, if you have questions about this, you can talk to Gil Tran from Attain. He's the one that did the full presentation. It was absolutely fabulous. And if you were at PRA, his slides are in the app. You can still go back and get it. If you're not able to get to it, just send me you can go into the calendar, and in the calendar you can actually, if you had anything on your agenda, you can click on it and it'll take you back to that. So you'll always be able to get back to it if you need to. And of course you can also email him. I'm sure he'd be willing to share it. So Syra and so as I mentioned, I just kind of blew over this a little bit, but it's worthy of a much bigger conversation. Oh, FFATA. There's also the thing of deleting the FFATA reference and adding more language about gender and sex orientation. So I think that we're going to have Gil on to talk about all of the things that he talked about at NCURA and more. So if you have any questions for Gil, send them to me in an email, me@manessa.com, or you can send them to me on LinkedIn. And then we can ask him related to the uniform guidance. So we'd be happy to ask him when we do our podcast with him. Okay. So that was all about the big changes to the OMB circular. The other big conversations that were happening were about the issue with vacancies, turnover, and burnout. And now this is actually, hold on, I just want to, again, have to keep checking because I have notifications and stuff, and I'm on YouTube, I'm on LinkedIn. This is my first time going live in years, which is weird for me, because I honestly used to be live all the time. I was live constantly. I love being live. I love the energy that comes with the live. You know, even it's funny. Even when nobody watched me going live, I still found it easier to record going live than if I had to sit and like record a training video and just be like, okay, I'm recording a training video now. If I were just sit and record the training video, it's like my worst nightmare. But if I'm live, I feel so much more confident. Who knows, right? I have no idea how I got off on that tangent. We're just going to call it my ADHD tangent and come right back. And when I say that, by the way, just so that everybody knows, if you don't already know me, that's I do actually have ADHD and I'm autistic, so I'm not saying ADHD tangent in like a facetious kind of way. You know how sometimes people will say, "Oh my God, that's my OCD," and people who actually have OCD are like, "That's not OCD," right? And so that's something I try to be really mindful of. But because I have ADHD, woof, squirrel. So vacancies and turnover and burnout. So I'm going to tell you something super amazing. Like, what's really amazing is this. How rare is it that you have an event in your life that transforms terror into excitement? You know, I've heard people say, you know, fear and anxiety and excitement, those are the same feelings. And you just have to tell your brain that you're excited. And I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody says that to me, that is not what happens. I go from anxious to infuriated. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And that's because of my opposition defiance, but that's neither here nor there. So I sit and I think about it, but it's true. It is absolutely true. So when I came to Encura, the conversations about vacancies, turnover, burnout, it was scary, you know, because the problem seems so big, you know, it seems so big. And the reason why it seemed even bigger than like big in research administration is because I work with many other industries, professionals and executives in industries related to burnout, like it's something that I see across the board, right? But what's really interesting is that because I'm not in the professional spheres with a lot of these other spaces, because I don't work in them, right? I'm just helping in a specific area. I don't see what's happening on like the bigger picture space, right? And so in those cases, but in this case, right? And what happened this time is actually allowing me to now help my clients better. Because what's happening is that it's so easy, I think, to feel like lonely or all by yourself, or like you're the only one doing all the things when we're sitting doing our stuff each day, right? Like you just got to do the day, do the thing, whatever, and you just get caught up in your day to day. And it's really hard to feel your presence in the greater story of research administration where everybody else is actually struggling with the same things, right? And so that's less lonely, right? It's less scary. But there's also safety in numbers in that when we all realize, oh yeah, okay, there's some of these things that we need, that we're all in agreement on, right? And now because once we start talking about the fact that we're all in agreement on it, now we start having the conversations of how to solve it. And that's one of the reasons why I actually think that the PRA FRA was so interesting, because I think that if you think, I was at the annual last year, and annual, because these are great opportunities for us to gather, sit and talk to each other, and then go off and do other things. And two, I really love the way Encura has tried to, they're doing it. They have done it so that they're pairing people from different institutions, different organizations, different experience levels together in speaking. So before, it used to be I just send in my session and say, okay, these are the people I'm speaking with. It's interesting that Encura and I both came to this at the same time, where we're like, okay, you know what? This is your thing, but we're going to pick this one, but now we're going to put you with two other people who submitted something similar. Let's get their voice in. And what happened, right, with that, and then with all of us talking together, is that new ideas are starting to emerge about how to solve issues with vacancies, turnover, and burnout, right? And that's what was really exciting to me, is that the kinds of sessions that they had. We had a session on meditation. Tara Bishop did that one. Oh my God, great. And then Vanessa Rook did one on group therapy for research administrators, and they started with a primal scream. I was speaking at the same time, so I wasn't able to go. And if you, by the way, Vanessa Rook did a video on, oh my God, what did she do a video on? For Encura. So if you just go to the Encura site and look for Vanessa on YouTube, she did a video on mindfulness for research administrators, which is also like critically important, amazing, incredible. So a lot of the kinds of topics we were having were solutions for things that we talked about in annual, right? Which is, I mean, that's just so cool to see. One of the key messages, so I don't have a whole lot to share. Like, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in terms of resources and stuff to help you right now, but I can tell you this with confidence. This is the best time to be a research administrator. Best time. The game is changing. We all know it. The horse is out of gate, cat's out of the bag. There are changes that we all see are coming. It may take a year, some of them. It may take 5 years for others, but the change is coming, and we, as the current group of research administrators, are going to be a huge, huge part of that evolution. Some of the things that we talked about were job descriptions, right? So, like, you know, in the event that leadership maybe doesn't understand the you know, the nature of our jobs, how can we work on the job descriptions to make sure that there are that we are accommodating people who need to work from home, to ensure equity, to ensure that we are able to hire the people we want to. Like, for example, HR wants us to have degrees, but we know that you don't need a degree for research administration. So a lot of us are trying to change our job descriptions to allow for either an associate's or no degree at all. At the same time, we also recognize that salaries are out of whack, right? So we're working on that there's so many people doing so many clever things with their HR departments, with their with other groups, to figure out, okay, this is the framework under which we have been told that we have to hire people, right? And like, a lot of people work for giant organizations that there's not a lot of flexibility within that infrastructure, and so you have to work within it. How can you do that? There were so many people who were leading that way. I can't, like, honestly, I have a list of people that I need to reach out to. Well, I actually have them all in my Rolodex now, my Airtable Rolodex. But you know, one of the big things, I'll share one of the big things with you, was that there's a big push to bring people back into the office from working from home, right? And like, we all know that there's no reason you need to be in the office for this job. But for some organizations, they won't even consider it. You have to be there, right? Now, I'll tell you, the challenge that you're going to have in these organizations. So one of the people that I spoke to said that they have no work from home option anymore, right? That everybody has to come in. And I was like, that's going to be tough for you right now. And, you know, I said, are you on the Res Admin mailing list? And by the way, if you're not on the Res Admin mailing list, get on it. I'll post the link later. You'll find that almost every single one of the jobs is remote. And if it doesn't say if it's remote, the first question people ask is it remote? So the opportunities, because of the fact that, like, we have so many people who are leaving, you know, I don't say graduating, who are exiting research administration, either because they don't want to do it anymore, because they're retiring. And we have not that many people coming in. There's a gap, right? And so those of us who are here doing research administration, we have a lot more control over where we choose to work, because we have options everywhere, salary options everywhere, right? And so one of the things to consider is going to be like, what is the competition like out there? And I met a couple people talking about salary equity band pays that, God, what am I looking for? Analyses that they've done across the country. And so I have a couple, I'm really excited to see, we're going to, again, more RAs in your living room. We're going to have a couple RAs in our living room who are going to talk about that. And so we can start to see, like, where, you know, I made like this bold statement, right? And that I think that our job is a C-suite job, and we should be paid as C-suite executives. Like, we are the integrators of the research administration business enterprise. It is what it is, right? It's okay to disagree. I mean, obviously it's okay to disagree, but my point is when I invite disagreement, because it's not so much about ending up on the C-suite. I just want to start somewhere really, really bold, as high as I possibly can, so that we can figure out where we end up, right? And thinking outside of how we can do more money stuff. So I want to actually talk about that briefly. So speaking about the salaries, like I said, we're seeing an end to this time, I think, where we're being paid less than we're worth. It's only a couple of years away now. I'm not sure that the way that many research administrators are being paid is going to fly for much longer. But the one thing I did hear, and so I wanted to help with this right now, because I can help with this right now. The one thing I did hear from many people, because like a lot of these things individual people can't help with, we're together collectively are doing as a team, right? And it takes time to turn a giant ship. but there are little things that we can do in the meantime. And this is one area where I have some resources. So the thing that I heard from many people while we were at Ancura was that they do not feel like research administrators in general are paid enough or being paid their value, right? So this is sort of like a general consensus. And so for that, I want to say that this is an opportunity for all of us, anyone, to get that value, right? And here's what I mean. So I want to recommend two things for you, if this is something that you feel is relevant to you, is Dorothy Mashburn. She's on my podcast, and she was on episode 83. And she will help. She's actually she's a salary negotiation coach, and she helps you with sort of figuring out, okay, where do I want to land? What do I need to do to land there? Like, she has a giant package where she'll like do your LinkedIn and your resume, and like work with you on your interview questions, and like she'll help you the whole way through. But she also has a lot of free stuff, like a ton. She has a podcast. She has so many resources. I'd recommend checking her out because she helps with sort of like, she specializes in corporate America. So she helps with the like, how do you get what you want, like from when you're going into your salary negotiations, when you're getting a review, or when you're getting a new job, or whatever it is. So she's got some great tactics there. The other person I want to recommend is Nancy Medoff, and she was also in my podcast, podcast 60 and episode 78. And she has a book called Unmute Yourself, Speak Up to Stand Out, and it is really good at helping you operationalize some of these ideas. So that's something that you probably want to take a look at as well. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to share about is leadership strategies for inclusion that happened at Ancura. So this is like so exciting to me. Like, I feel like I saw inclusion operationalized in a way that I have not seen before. It was really, really exciting. It was not just in terms of the care that was put into each and every detail, right? There were quiet rooms, there were working rooms, there were instructions for the speakers on how to use pronouns, and making sure that, you know, we knew that we had interpreters. Like, there was a lot of work that was done to make sure that each individual each individual was supported so that they felt like they could show up at their best, right? For me, the most powerful thing that happened was I walked in on the first day and I saw this giant land and labor acknowledgement statement printed out on backer board, and it was just standing there, and I took a picture. I was captivated, and I cried. Like, honestly, it's the most meaningful, because like I'm keynote speaking at Region 1, and I wanted to include a land and labor acknowledgement, but I didn't know how to do it. Like, I wanted to make sure it's done, but I was trying to figure out how to do it, right? Like, what do you say, where do you go, whatever. And then Ancura leadership gave us the exact thing that we needed, and Stacy was like, yeah, let's do a video like this, so like the whole thing's coming together. And it's part of this. It demonstrated that this is a part of I am a part of an organization that I respect, that I admire, that I want to model the behaviors of, right? I know I was at the right place at the right time. And I want to share with you just a thought, and this is super important. I was in a session on DEI. Oh my God, you know what I realized? I should have actually recorded this instead of tried to download it. Oh, so silly. Okay, we'll remember that for next time. And Tanya said, we want Ancura to be, or I'm paraphrasing, these weren't the exact words, but we want Ancura to be a place where each person feels like they're positioned to have the greatest success, and that they're seen, and that we meet their needs as best as we can. And if someone is at an event and you feel like your needs were overlooked or no one saw you, please know that it's because we didn't see it, not because we saw and we didn't care. So please say something, and you'll see that action will be taken to make sure that that is considered, right? And so I saw the care that was given for a lot of us. And for a lot of us, you know, like, we've been around the block before. So we've seen the DEI stuff before, and we tend to be a little bit cynical, you know, when somebody says, you know, that but I already have seen the action, right? And it's so beautiful and lovely to be a part of an organization where the action was already there, the language is there, and it's like, you know, you don't have to question it. You can just have trust. And that is so beautiful. So I want to thank you so much, like Lamar, Tanya, the whole group. I know that you guys have a big team, but you were the two that I met, and you're incredible. And, you know, it's funny. I was going into a session I actually was going into a session. I was standing at the door. Okay. Like, so there was a giant door on the left and a giant door on the right. And I was actually going into a DEI session that was next door. And I thought that this room, that I was going into the back of the DEI session. And my spirit said to me, go in the right door. The right door. Right door. And I said, okay. So I went in the right door. And the second I walked in the right door, I knew it wasn't I could see by the 3 people on there. Because Rashonda wasn't there. Right? I was expecting to see Rashonda. But my spirit said, go in the front, sit down, you need to be here. And I was like, okay. And that spirit, oh, so right. So right. Okay. So, what I want to sort of like, what's great about this is that we kind of sort of like went through the whole shebang. So what I want to do, there's so many other things that we're going to talk about over the course of the next little while, but we're going to sort of close up intent for today because we've gone for like half an hour. It's been fabulous. So I want to finish off with this. 2 things. One is I want to give you a tool that will help you to optimize your workday. So, something that came up in a couple of my sessions was that we have so much work to do, all of us do, that it can be absolutely overwhelming. And a question came up about how to generate progress when fires are always coming at you all the time. And here's the thing. That's our job. We know that. We're crisis managers. That's how it is. But, we've done it for years. So for many of us, we feel like, well, I should be able to do this, right? But the gig has changed and there's way too much for any one person to do now. So like, even if you had this job 20 years ago, the amount of work that you're doing now for the same portfolio is tenfold. So it's harder to stay on top of all of those things, right? So, and you know this, I know this, like we all know this, but we know that we need to get the boundaries around our work and other things, but none of us have really had the time to figure out how do we prioritize the 300 new things that have popped up in the last few years, right? So one of the things, for me, I was afraid of picking wrong. So I made I really, really fascinated. I made a study of this because I find the operationalization of activities to be fascinating. I think it's so interesting how we make decisions consciously and unconsciously related to our activities and our work. And I originally did it for myself because I was feeling overwhelmed. So about 25 years ago, everybody was like, oh, Vanessa gets everything done all the time and is so capable. And I was like, whoa. I got to figure out a way to do this, right? And the truth is it was because I had worked through some of these things 20 years ago because I was fascinated by my, just how to do it. And so, but at the time, I didn't really understand how I had figured it out study-wise. But now I'm 47. I'm wiser. I'm more mature. I've done a lot more work. I finished adolescence, which I didn't finish till I was 35. So there you go. And So I started doing it 20 years ago. Then I started to operationalize it. Then I started training other people on it. And so I've trained friends, family members, then business owners and marketers and so on and so forth. And then I was like, I want to build something specific for research administrators because I think and honestly, when I think back, I think that was the reason I was doing this all along. Like all of it was practice for this moment. So I want to recommend that you check out a video on Manessa TV. It's called, what is it called? I can't remember what it's called. It's called How to Get Control of Your To-Do List. It's called How to Get Control of Your To-Do List. It's not going to tell you, look, this is what you need to do, because honestly, I don't know what you need to do. Only you know what you need to do. But it will give you the blueprint and sort of like a framework to figure it out so that you then are like, oh, that thing, I can ignore it. Oh, that thing, I can do it. And it'll sort of just give you what your metrics are for that, which is not something, that a lot of us sort of like have kind of codified. So that will help. The big picture takeaway is this, right? We are sitting in our own spaces and it feels lonely, like we're the only ones dealing with things in our organization. And that can feel scary and it can feel like we have to solve the problem ourselves, right? So takeaway number 1 is you're not alone. We are all doing this together, every single one of us, right? Whether it's figuring out how to do other support, figuring out how to do partial calendar months for, oh God, that's my worst nightmare. We're solving the same problems, right? And so let's solve them together, right? Just like we're doing at NCURA. But I think the problem is that after NCURA, a lot of times we do all these events and then we come back and the cards stay on a pile and so on. So take 1 card a day and connect with these people because they're the ones who helped you. They're the ones who will help you. And they're the ones who will connect you to the next person who can help you, or you will help them. right? Or you will connect. So, and together we'll kind of like build it out. NCURA, honestly, I think is at the forefront of all of these changes. Like they get it. They're leading the way with their sessions and workshops and how to make these changes operationally. Because like in the old days, sessions used to be very much, mine included, we'd talk about a lot of things and you'd have a few takeaways. You talk about a lot of things and have a few takeaways. But what's fascinating is this year, collectively, a giant group of research administrators all decided they wanted to talk about something different or the same topic differently or operationalizing something in a different way. Everybody did it, right? So when that's happening, it means that there is a groundswell of something happening, right? Like a tsunami of change. And that's not something that is easily stopped, right? So the change is coming. I don't remember the song. Times they are changing. And I am excited. I know that right now we have issues, but issues are opportunities. They're opportunities for us to make the change because let's face it, no one wants to make change when the going is good. Now's the time, okay? So speaking of now being our time, I want to share with you some opportunities that are ready for you to carpe diem if you're ready to make now your time, okay? The first thing is there is a new social media initiative on the Region 1. So if you're in Region 1, we have a social media spotlight. The link is going to be in the follow-up with the resources. We're introducing, it's basically to get for us to highlight participants and the things that they love. My friend Manushka was recently highlighted. Fabulous. I actually learned about, and I learned about somebody new the other day, and I actually highlighted them on my feed, but it takes me about 4 times of saying someone's name to actually get it. So it's a really great way to get to know the people in your region, which is fab. Also, go to your regional conference. I think Region 4 is having their conference soon, so go to that because that's a really great way for you to get some of that energy as well. If you are in a master's program for research administration anywhere, okay, they are accepting scholarship applications. And whether you think, some of us are like, oh, we self-select out for whatever reason. Don't self-select out, submit. They're awarding $2,500 in scholarships to NCURA members that are enrolled in a master's degree. So apply. The link will be also in the show notes that I will add after this. Okay. And then last but not least, if you are in Region 1, at the Westin Portland Harborview Hotel in Portland, Maine, May 6th to 8th, 2024, be sure you are at that NCURA Region 1 conference because I'm going to be the keynote and people are one day going to ask you, where were you during my keynote? Because honestly, wait till you see what I have for you. I have so much for you. You're going to love it. You want to be there. You want to get my cute little swag bags you're going to get. You want to get the little lollipops that you're going to get. There's things that you're going to get. And they're not actual lollipops. I mean, I'll also have actual lollipops, but you'll actually it's really fun. So be sure that you register for the Region 1 conference. Thank you guys so much for joining me for Intent. For all y'all who watch this later or keep it on in the background, that's what this is for. It's not necessarily meant to be like an active thing. It's sort of like the Today Show. Keep it on in the background. Listen to it if you can. It's just a fun thing to have on there. And if you have anything that you want to see featured on next week's Intent, which we will be having one next week, just drop me a line on LinkedIn or me@manessa.com. And don't forget, I am a research administrative crisis manager. So if you have portfolios in your organization that have been languishing for a very, very, very long time that you would like someone to come in and please just clean up and hand it over to you so you can hand it over to someone else and maybe even train them on it, or clean up, close it out, and make it go away in a compliant fashion. Compliance is always key. That's me. That is my favorite thing to do in the whole world. So if you are looking for that kind of help, I'm here for that. You can check out everything at manessa.inc. I'm also on manessa.tv. Thanks all for joining me. I will see y'all next week, Monday morning. Okay, the key thing we're going to figure out now, okay? Ordinarily, I'm going to do this very differently. I'm just going to go. But since this is my first time doing it on LinkedIn this way, I'm going to actually figure out how do we turn this off. Okay, so I got to press the button. I'm going to end stream. Yeah, we're going to end the stream now. We've ended it. Wah! Did it. Okay, the broadcast is ended. I'm going to hope. Now, here's the thing. That's only on LinkedIn.